Yeah, just taken myself off mute.
Okay. Are you going to be sharing your screen?
Yeah, I could. So I thought that this was sort of like a Q&A type thing.
It can
So
be. So
yeah, so
are you going to be teaching anything before that?
yeah, sure. So I mean, I do have a deck, of course, which I can't share, but sure. But I'll kind of like start by giving everyone like a background to what I'll be speaking about, and then after that, sort of open it up to questions, from the audience, and people can interrupt me, whenever they like, as far as if they'd like me to focus more on certain things, and we can kind of like take it from there. And yeah, and I can share my screen as far as, like maybe if people need to see an example or something like that, sure. So I can like absolutely, I can absolutely do that.
Awesome, awesome. So in that case, let me start properly and record the session and bring you in and introduce you in. Just 1 second here. Hello and welcome back to another session of the Money Mastery Summit. My name is Quinn Vo. I am your host. And next up, our speaker, Rajiv Jadhav, is the CEO of R Square Media Inc., an award-winning online reputation management company that helps clients be seen or not to be seen online while delivering results at speed of thought. Solutions include highly targeted lead generation campaigns with a customer engagement and acquisition objective, or deleting bad press, fake news, or competition from Google page one. So, you know what? He can get you seen or unseen, whatever you want. That is so cool. Rajiv, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Quinn. Thank you for inviting me to this amazing forum, platform, and conference. The subject of my presentation today is clicks to cash. So there's a reason why it's titled Clicks to Cash. Just to take a step back and tell you something that I'm sure all of you already know. So right now we find ourselves in the corona epidemic, where everyone is, under quarantine, self quarantine, they're trapped at home, and as a result of that, they're spending more and more time online, and in that time, more time is being spent on social media. In fact, the data tells us that there is a 40% uptick in social media use. So it was already extremely high to begin with, but even beyond that now, there's like a 40% increase even beyond that. So people are pretty much living online. And so that's one thing that's going on. Another facet to what's going on is there's a lot of social isolation going on because you're at home, you're told to keep 6 feet apart, the government is requesting you to not go out or limit the time spent outdoors and all of that. And what's happening is that people are feeling extremely isolated and very lonely. Now, what that means to you, so this isn't a talk about depression or anxiety or anything like that. This is a talk about opportunity, and I'll get to that in a moment, but just bear with me. Uh, so, what happens when people are feeling lonely? One of the symptoms is that they are more receptive to any kind of message that is sensitive to their situation. Now, how that goes back to, so you're thinking, okay, this is all good, Rajiv, but then the topic of his speech was clicks to cash. So get to the cash part. Okay, fine. I get it. I get it. I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that. So the reason why Corona is an amazing prospecting opportunity is because of it's the perfect storm of isolation and a huge time spent online, which makes these audiences extremely responsive to highly targeted messaging. So what this means to the people in the room, so let's say you're a business owner, let's say you're a coach, let's say you're a financial advisor, any kind of service-based business, you have the ability to reach your audience if you have your targeting correct. So when I say targeting, what do I mean? I mean, if you have a very specific articulation of who your ideal customer is. And when I say ideal customer, I don't, I get very upset when I ask people, okay, who's your ideal customer? And people use this word, anyone, anyone who needs to lose weight. I'm like, what? Anyone isn't a description. It's not a description. I'm sorry. If anyone here used that description, I'm sorry. I have like an argument with you, and you can, find me online and we can discuss that. But you have to be super specific. And by that I mean as specific as saying, my audience is a man who's, let's say, 35 plus, who's living in a city, who earns, let's say, 60K or more, something specific like that. And let's say he likes sports or likes the outdoors or likes technology. So that's what I mean by a high degree of specificity. So if you have that already worked out as to who your ideal customer is, you then have the ability of targeting that audience online. And by online, I'm talking about Facebook initially. We have two programs, and I'll get to that in a bit. But initially, I'm talking about Facebook. And you can target people based on a variety of parameters like their demographics and psychographics, which basically means their taste, habits, and preferences, as well as income level to some degree. And so that's one part of it. Targeting is one part. And the second part is the message, because I said that you have a whole bunch of lonely people out there who are kind of getting cabin fever and are close to going stir crazy. Now you can actually convert that mania to eagerness and happiness and excitement towards you. And the way that you do that is by having a really compelling message. And you need to then, put that message in front of them. But before that, you need to know what message is going to work. So my company, we adopt what's called a test and learn approach. So what does that mean, test and learn? Test and learn means that let's say Quinn is my client and we've already done a campaign for her. It's been insanely successful and I know that it works, but despite it working for Quinn, I'm not going to take that campaign and use it for you because it may not work for you. Every business is different. Everything is kind of has like a certain personality in it that comes out. So it's not like I'm going to take Quinn's campaign and put all your money on it and say, please work, please work, please work. I'm sorry, that's not how we do business because that would be a gamble and that would not be very ethical. And we actually are known for our high degree of integrity and professionalism. In fact, we won an award for it, 2017 Minority Business of the Year award in the company of Con Edison and MTA, $2 billion companies. So we're really known for integrity. So how we approach this is by taking your budget, but taking a very small little portion of it, like let's say 50 bucks, and making small mini campaigns to test to see what works because we want to know what works. So, for example, we'll create a campaign where, like, campaign one, we're going to test in like 3 or 4 days. So, we know that campaign one works, campaign two works really well, campaign three does not work, campaign four underperforms. So, we've run 4 campaigns parallelly in the space of 3 or 4 days. So, this is still within the first week. And in that first week, we know objectively with a very high degree of confidence that it was campaign two that worked. And then we then take the balance amount of money from your budget and put it on the winner. And then, of course, it just explodes like crazy. And you have customers beating down your door virtually, proverbially, that want to buy from you and want to, work with you. And we've adopted this system, ever since this started, as well as earlier on as well. And we've been getting a lot of complaints. We've been getting a lot of complaints. Most of our complaints have been about customers that are complaining that we're sending them way too many customers. They're saying, Rajiv, can you just stop what you're doing? You're sending me too many customers. I'm sorry, I just can't deal with it. So there was a client that called me up. She called me up, I think. Yeah, go ahead, Quinn.
Rajiv, that's a good complaint. Man, that's a good complaint. I have a question though. Before,
Sure.
okay, so who should start using paid ads? And basically, you're providing paid ads services.
Yeah.
And do you only do Facebook ads, or do you do other types of ads as well?
Yeah, that's a great question, Quinn. Thank you for that. We provide the service for both Facebook and LinkedIn. LinkedIn tends to be a slightly more B2B focus, and Facebook is slightly more B2C. B2B means business to business, and B2C is business to customer. So if your end user is, like a person who isn't necessarily a business owner, then you could then B2C might be a better fit, and Facebook is something that could work for you. If your audience is specifically like an enterprise customer, then that audience is there's a higher chance of success of finding that kind of a customer through our LinkedIn solution. So that's why we have like two offerings, LinkedIn and Facebook. Facebook tends to be a little bit more cost effective than LinkedIn, but of course I can get to that later on in the Q&A.
So my question is this: like, I know that there's a lot in my world, in the coaching world. There's a lot of us are using paid ads, and the successful ones get leads through paid ads because they're professionals. They're not just going to do free ads and free content. They're going to do paid ads.
Right.
At what point should someone? So my first question is for people like me. At what point should someone consider using paid ads in the business?
Yeah, that's a great question. And in fact, um, so there are two things that you need before you can even work with an agency like me or anyone else. So the first thing is that you need to have a presence on Facebook. What do I mean by that? I mean, you need to have a Facebook business page. So some people have a Facebook personal page which they use to run their business, and it might work to some degree because you're leveraging your network, and that's fine. But the challenge with that is that you cannot use your Facebook personal page to run an ad campaign. You need a Facebook business page to run a campaign. So without that, you wouldn't be able to run any kind of ad campaign. So that's point number one. Point number two, and this is something that I run into very often, is people use a lot of groups, and groups is awesome. Facebook groups is very popular. It's a good way to build a community, and it's like a closed space. It's a safe space. You can have like a lot of good activity and engagement there, and that's awesome. I'm not knocking that, but again, with the specific focus of doing an ad campaign, you can't use groups. Groups are not the vehicle that can be used to when doing an advertising campaign. You need a Facebook business page. It was formerly known as a Facebook fan page. But of course, now people interchange those words. They're the same thing. Facebook business page, Facebook fan page is the same thing. So you need a Facebook business page first, which is your basic presence on Facebook. And then, so that's step number one. Step number two is you need to have some activity on that page, just like you're having activity in your Facebook group, as well as the activity on your personal Facebook page. And by activity, what do I mean? I mean posts, engagement, likes, comments, shares. People are looking at your stuff, liking it, sharing it, commenting, stuff like that. So that needs to happen on your Facebook business page. So why? Because when somebody looks at your ad, they're going to see your page is linked to that ad, and they're going to look you up on Facebook. And if your ad looks like an empty bar at 6 p.m. at night, you guess what's going to happen? They're going to bail. They're not going to stay on your page, and more importantly, they're not going to positively react to your ad campaign, even if your targeting is perfect and your messaging is amazing. But if your page looks like they're just crickets there, it's not going to work. You need that activity. I call this the crowded bar syndrome. So you're walking down the street and you see two bars on either side of the street. One is like blasting music. It's very crowded. There's like a line a mile long, people waiting to get in. And on the other side, there's another bar with no one. And there's no line, there's nothing there. So which is the bar that you go into? Well, by a show of hands, can somebody like raise their hands and tell me which one they would like to go into?
I'm going to speak like a lawyer. It depends on what I want. No, just kidding.
Gotcha. Okay.
Fun for sure. The lineup. My gosh, yes.
Gotcha. Right, right. So chances are that most people would go into the bar that has a lot of activity. So I'm using that as a metaphor for success on Facebook. So your Facebook business page needs to have some activity on it to seem like a legitimate business, so that when people come there, they know that, okay, this is a legit business. It's actually a business that people are engaging with, which means that they provide a service, they provide value, and I think I can trust it, or at least I can trust it enough to begin the process of finding out who they are. So that's what I mean by having a basic presence on Facebook. So if you did not have that yet, you would first need to do that before you worked with an agency like me, because and this is like a PSA for people out there. And I was actually speaking to a client yesterday, and I told him, I said, listen, I can take your money and do the campaign for you, but it's not going to work because your Facebook page isn't ready yet. And even if you finished it like by the end of the day and wanted to do the campaign with it, it still wouldn't work because it's an empty page. It's an empty shell. And I'm not going to take your money and it not work, because then you'll think that, like, why didn't you tell me? So integrity is something that's very important. I would much rather, only take those clients that I can explode as far as being incredibly successful, and take and only work with that, because that's going to help with my reputation, which is extremely important to me. So to anyone that's here and is thinking, so Facebook ads is what we call amplification. You're trying to amplify your presence on Facebook. You're trying to extend your digital footprint or your digital reach by doing advertising, So, and then the question is, what are you extending? You're extending your presence. So it's obvious that you first need to have a presence, which you're then expanding through advertising. So it's very important that you have that first before you embark on any kind of paid advertising, just so that you're not wasting your money.
Right. So then this, and then for other people, so for coaches who have programs, I know that the whole Facebook marketing campaigns really work if you know what you're doing. If your funnel converts, then you can pump money into paid ads all the time. But for someone who is like a professional, like a doctor, a dentist, a lawyer, how do they use Facebook ads?
Yeah.
Or LinkedIn ads? Which one should they use? Actually, there should be Facebook ads because they're looking for customers, right? So
Right, right. So basically, the process that has worked so far is you need to understand and you need to have the right expectations for what Facebook can do for you. So Facebook can help you with finding the right audience and getting and putting your message in front of your right audience. So Facebook is really good at doing that, and it's very good at doing that for a fairly low price compared to Google, compared to YouTube, compared to LinkedIn. So Facebook is by far the most cost-effective platform right now. So that's like one part of it. You also need to understand that Facebook isn't going to like sell for you. Facebook is good at getting your message in front of the people, and the journey or the process starts at that point. So what's going to happen is that at that point you can capture their contact information by using what's called a lead magnet. A lead magnet, it's a fancy word for basically a white paper or a report that you will create that has some sort of a value that people feel that it's valuable enough for them to share their name, email, and phone number in order to obtain. So this is something that you'll create, and it's something that's relevant to who you are, but more importantly, the value that you deliver to your customers. So if you're a coach, and let's say you're a weight loss coach, so your white paper will be on the some of the top 5 foods that are responsible for weight gain, for example, or some myths with weight loss, some like really well researched information that people would want to have, which would save them, let's say, 2 hours of time researching that themselves online. So that's something that you want to use for people to reach out to and say, I want this. So and that's what you use to get people's attention. Now once you have their attention, you then have to reach out to them. You can send them to your funnel, and that's fine, and the funnel will take them on that journey where you can either lead them to a webinar, and the webinar can give them that experience that you're a subject matter expert, and then the funnel progresses with the upsells, and that's one way of doing it. Even if you're not as sophisticated as having a funnel and having it set up to that degree, you can still use the system by having the prospect's contact information for you to then follow up with, because you have their name, phone number, and email, and you can follow up with them immediately because they are expecting to hear from you. Like I said, right now people are feeling very lonely, they're feeling very isolated, and they actually want to hear from you. Previously, I'm from New York City, And if a stranger comes and tries to talk to you in New York, you'll be like, hey, why are you talking to me? And now, because of this whole isolation, it's flipped to people being like, please, please, please talk to me, please, please. So that's the difference with what's happening right now. So it's very critical that you take action now to start building your pipeline, like your Q2, Q3 pipeline right now by taking action right now.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. What kind of budget do you recommend us to start with?
Yeah, that's like a great question, Quinn. We've actually taken a lot of pain out of the entire process because even as a marketer, other marketers have like hit me up and my inbox is filled with people from all over the world trying to get my business. And all of them, for the most part, say the same thing, where they kind of nickel and dime you for extra work, and then there's no guarantee, and and they lock you into some 6 month contract, and it's a big pain. We, on the other hand, we've kind of just flipped it on its head, and we have like a complete done for you service. So it's basically like 2000 to start with, and 2000 is broken up into two parts, 1000 and 1000. 1000 of that 2000 is your advertising budget, which is spent in the way that I explained earlier, where you use like a small amount to test the message. And when you get a winner, you then put the balance amount on that. And usually this runs for like 4 to 6 weeks. And then the other 1000 is what you get for that is your targeting, your strategy, the design of every single thing that is designed. So even if we have to design 5, 6, 7 campaigns, you're still paying that same fixed 2000, not a penny more. So even if we have to design infographics or animated videos or anything like that, again, you're still paying that fixed price. So and you also get the daily reporting. Well, not daily, it's actually by the minute. As the lead comes in and gets captured, it gets populated onto your dashboard that you have access to at all times, 24/7, so that you can reach out and take action. So all of that is for like we phrase it as a one-time fee of 2000. And the reason why we say one-time fee is because there's no contract, and we're approaching it as a one-time fee. If you want it next month, then sure, you can do it again. If you don't want it, like the customer was complaining, you're sending me too many customers, stop. Okay, no problem. No problem. If you want to stop, no problem. You can stop or pause, and that's fine. So that's kind of like how we approach it.
That's awesome. So here's a transparency. I was going to hire Rajiv to help me run some campaigns for this summit before it started, but I was so busy I could not send him the things that he needed. So I said, okay, Rajiv, I have to try you after this because I don't have the time to send you all the information you need right now
Right.
because I'm still gathering it myself. So I haven't worked with Rajiv yet, but can you give us some advice on when we choose an agency to work with? What how do we vet the right agency? But by the way, I found Rajiv on one of the collaboration circle, and because of the way he talks, I actually kind of liked him, especially with his sense of humor. So I thought, okay,
Right.
I really wanted to pick your brain. So before I hire Rajiv, I'm like, I might as well just put you on my stage and grill you first before I pay you.
Makes sense, right? Makes sense. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so how do we protect ourselves when we hire agency? Because I know a ton of my friends have lost thousands of dollars on
Yeah.
Facebook ads when they were not ready for it yet.
Right, right. So I think the very first thing is you want to be sure that the agency has your best interest at heart before their own, like a fiduciary almost. So if you meet an agency that tells you upfront, you know what, I don't think you're ready for it, and I don't think you should do this campaign right now. So that is, I think, the first clue that maybe that's an agency that has some integrity and is perhaps worthy of your trust. But that's one factor. The second factor is you need to understand if they're offering you a fixed price or it's like variable based on work or whatever. So again, I'm not saying that if you do more work, you need to get paid more. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm just saying that it's better to know that ahead of time, up front, that hey, if I'm going to do 6 campaigns, there's going to be an additional fee, and that fee is so much, and that needs to be communicated to you extremely explicitly and upfront, just so that there aren't any rude shocks or surprises, especially when money is involved. Shocks and surprises are good at the movies, but not when you're, doing any kind of payment. That's usually the last time when you want to have a shock or a surprise. So that's the second thing. You need to ask the questions like, hey, do I get everything for this price? Or like, is there anything else that I need to know about? You need to ask them, is there any variable cost? Variable cost means is there a component that depending on something the cost might increase, or the what I'm paying for, is that everything? So that's question number two. Question number three is, are they providing you a done for you service? Done for you service means all you're doing is providing them access to your Facebook business page and they take care of the rest. So that's the service that we offer, which means that the fee covers the creative design, it covers creating the assets, it covers creating the copy, the art, the graphic design, targeting, strategy, campaign planning, everything. So that's like a complete done for you service. So you need to find out if for whatever fee they're charging you, are they doing everything or are they expecting you to do something? So you need to again figure out if that is the case or not. And if they are expecting you to do something, then you need to ask like, is their request reasonable or is it unreasonable? And are they asking you for like 3,000 and they're making you write everything? Is that reasonable? In my opinion, I think it's not. But again, that's a call that you need to kind of take yourself and let your conscience, be your guide as far as that goes. Yeah, and lastly, look them up. See if they have five-star reviews, and look at multiple sources. Look them up on Google, look them up on Facebook, look them up on LinkedIn. Like for example, if you look me up on LinkedIn, you'll see that I have 45 plus reviews on LinkedIn, and on Google we're like five-star rated. On Glassdoor we're five-star rated. On Facebook and LinkedIn, on Google we're five-star rated as well. So it's like right through we're five-star rated, and that's because we take a great deal in caring about the kind of work that we do. And you can also see that every single thing that I'm saying, it's actually documented and it's public information as far as the award and everything. So I would say like fact check, take your time, and don't let anybody pressurize you into taking a decision. Any kind of pressure tactic is another flag that, yeah, maybe like, why is this person pressuring me? Like if somebody's pressuring you, it's like they're trying to make a sale, and why? If they're so good, then I should be chasing them like, hey, whoa, wait, I want to buy from you. Wait, just hang on. Like, it shouldn't be the other way around, right? So that's also like another way to do it. And the third and last thing is, can they give you a reference? Like, can you speak to one of their earlier customers, speak to them and find out what was the experience like? And if they are transparent enough to give you access to one of their customers in a similar situation, like what they're planning on helping you with, great, that's awesome, right? So these are like, ways that this kind of like a checklist
Mhm.
that you can go through to carefully vet and call it due diligence. This way, then you'll protect yourself and make sure you won't get burnt.
Is there any agency out there, and I'm wondering about your service as well, that does that charges a fee on result? Like for example, I'll charge you 10% of whatever I sell for you. Anything like that? Is there any agency like that out there?
And not to my knowledge. I think what you're referring to is like a pure commission model
Mhm.
where like they do all the work and and then you're just paying for the leads. I mean, there are some agencies that do that, but what happens is that you don't know if those leads are fresh leads just for you, or they are leads that they're selling to everyone.
I see.
Because what might happen is that maybe they've done this work once and then they're trying to monetize that by selling the same leads to like 25 different people. So then if you're, let's say, a coach looking for a certain profile, and that same profile has already been sold to 10 other coaches, which means that those people have been contacted 10 times already, and now by now are fed up of getting these phone calls for solicitation. They're going to be like, stop calling me, so you need to be careful as to if these leads are fresh, original leads just for you, or are they, or are these leads something that have been sold to others? So you need to ask this question.
So then what about not just leads, but actually sales, but actual sales? Is that an option too? Is there anything out there?
Not to my knowledge, because I know that most traditional agencies, like even the big ones that work with Fortune 500 companies, they all have retainers,
Yeah.
and everything is like kind of paid for, and then what happens happens. So I'm not aware of agencies that kind of take on that entire risk, and you know,
Yeah.
and the client just pays for the end result, because there are some factors that the agency may not be responsible for. Like the agency is not responsible for how the client closes. So if the
Yeah.
client is excellent at closing and has like a, let's say, 80% closing rate, then awesome. That's great. And so the work that they're doing is going to get rewarded for, because the client knows what they're doing. If the flip side is that if the client doesn't know what they're doing, and the agency does the work, but then the client is going to think that, hey, this didn't work for me, it's a scam. So then that model then is lopsided and then wouldn't work for either party. So
Right.
something that you kind of have to assess to see, whether this model works for you or doesn't work for you.
Great. Um, Actually, let's. Do you want to share? Do you want to teach anything else before I open up to the audience for Q&A?
Sure. So I'm happy to like share my screen. Let me see, and this will kind of just show some visuals to everything that I've spoken about. In case anyone has any questions on anything that I've talked about. So just bear with me for a moment.
We do have some really good questions in the chat box for you.
Okay, let's see. Yeah. So this is, like lemons to lemonade, right? So this whole corona situation is very stressful for most people, and people are thinking, oh my God, when is it going to get over? I'm thinking, how long is it going to continue for? Again, just for the opportunity. Honestly, I hope that nobody's health is impacted by this, obviously, but health aside, this whole situation is very interesting.
Mhm.
So the situation that we're in right now is that everyone is trapped at home, and basically it's perfect for any kind of relevant messages from people. So that's why it's very interesting. And the way that, like I was saying, there are two ways that we work with clients: uh, targeted ads on Facebook that are delivered in real time. So the way that it works is something like this, where the prospect sees the ad on Facebook, and again, this ad is done, created by us, developed by us, designed by us, everything we do. And then they get to a form where they're downloading a report, and then they fill in their name, email, phone number. This is then captured automatically and auto-populated on the dashboard that the client has access to. And then after this point, they then go to a confirmation page, which at this point can direct them to your funnel if you have a funnel. And if you don't have a funnel, maybe to your website or something like that. So that's basically like level one of the process. And that, gets you like, so on average, conservatively, we're generating 15 to 25 hot leads a week. So what that means over a month, it's like maybe it's like 75 to 90 leads a month. Like I said, conservatively, it could be a lot more than that as well. Depending on how we're profiling the audience. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And and then of course these are some of the ads that we've designed. Like I said, these are like text ad, video ads. These are like some video ads that we developed. And I'll actually show you some of the ads as well if there's time.
Sure.
And then, like I said, this is everything is like very black and white. It's very large font, as you can notice. There's no fine print, so to speak. And everything is here. So it's like thousand. Like it says, 100% done for you, no contract, includes design. So the thousand is spent, like I said, by testing on small campaigns. It could be 50, it could be 100. And once we arrive at the winner, we then put the money on the winner. And as far as the other thousand, we do a lot of testing, split A/B testing. We do the creative design, which is included in the thousand, whether it's ad copy, graphic design, video, we do it all. And even if we have to design more campaigns, you're still paying that fixed 2000. You're not paying a penny more ever. And if you want us to do the follow up as well, then that's something that we offer for an additional 450. But like I say, that's optional. and that's basically following up with the prospects with email, text, phone call, voicemail, etc., to get them ready to speak to you. I mean, they already are ready to speak to you, but like I said, this is optional. Some coaches are very on the ball, and some coaches less so. And I guess this follow up is for the coaches, the latter, that are less so and kind of just want it hand delivered on a silver platter. So for that, it's like 450 more. Like I said, it's completely optional. And if but the core is still 2000. So that's kind of like what it is, in a nutshell. And yeah, so I'm happy to, in fact, let me open something that I think might be interesting. Just bear with me for a moment.
So set one, two, and three, they're all happen at the same
Good evening,
time, right?
everyone. Healthy happiness.
Yeah, go ahead, Quinn.
Volume. I can hear the video, but I cannot see the video, the one that you
Oh,
were playing.
yeah, just a sec.
Okay.
I just wanted to.
So my question, Rajiv, was so set one, two, and three happens
Yeah,
at the same time. You're running three tests at the same time, right?
yeah, sometimes a four as well.
Okay. And then once those are done, in 5 days, you can see which one works the best, and then you're gonna focus all the money on the best campaign.
Exactly, because then we know for sure which one is going to work for the specific client and for the specific audience that we're looking to engage with.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the complaint, this is one of many complaints we received over the months and years. I'm just gonna play this, it's kind of cute. But yeah, tell me if you can hear it.
Hi, my name is Rachel. I'm from Prehab. I would like you not to ever hire Rajiv because once he started working with us, our phones have been ringing nonstop.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's kind of it.
Rajiv, you should tell them to create a different testimonial. That was too noisy. That was
Yeah,
way
I
too
know.
noisy.
Yeah, I know. So I'm actually working on that, to getting the client to like create another one. So
Yeah.
in a slightly less noisy environment. Yeah.
Okay, actually, we have some great question from Rajit. Please shed some light on how to create a compelling ad. Well, first of all, you create the ad for your clients, right? It's all
Yeah.
done for you.
Yeah. It's a completely done for you service.
Wow. Okay. But then what are the that that is good. Like so but then what is the if you're doing it yourself, what do you need? What are the good practices for creating a good ad?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the good practices are that be super specific in your communication. And the second thing is keep your like, and again, I hate to say this, but it's the truth. Keep your as far as the sophistication of language, try to keep it to like about like a fifth grade level, so in your the language that you use, keep it so that it could be understood by a fifth grade student here in the US. And again, that's not to diminish anyone's intelligence or anything. It's just that when language is super simple and it's very plain, people kind of get it in like 5 seconds or less. That's the idea, that people are going to get it, and that's the design, so that people get it. So that's step number one. And then step number two is you want to make sure that you're very clear as to communicating the value of what you're doing. So maybe make bullet points, again, be very direct. Like, you don't want to waste people's time. You want to be super specific, be upfront about what you're doing for them, what they can hope to get from your service when they use you. And like I said, keep it to like a fifth grade level so that people are very clear, super clear. So again, if some of you have studied for SAT and GMAT and anything that comes after that, that's awesome. Hats off to you. But kind of just don't use those kind of like sophisticated language, because it's going to be like zoop and you'd be like wasting your time. So the idea of communication is for people to understand you, not so that you can feel good about how like advanced you are as far as your knowledge of English. So I would say use that. The second thing is make the ad more immersive by using pictures and visuals. Experiment with using like maybe an infographic or one arresting picture that encapsulates the idea of what you're looking to do. Use video. So though these are some tools, if you also want to just take your phone and shoot like a selfie and have yourself speak for like 5 seconds or 10 seconds, believe me, 5 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot. It's plenty for you to convey an idea. In fact, there's this like famous like story that I heard like back in the day. How producers would select which movies to greenlight in Hollywood was if you could write down the idea of the movie on the back of a business card and that was good and makes sense, that was the basis on which they decided which movies got greenlit versus those that didn't. So your idea has to be like super specific and it should be so potent that when you see that essentially a sentence or two, you're like, boom, it's awesome. So kind of like approach it like that, kind of like an elevator pitch.
Awesome. Do you recommend, well, do we start with pictures, graphics, or video, or both? I guess you'll be testing all of it.
Yeah, you'll be testing all of it to see like which one works and which one doesn't work. And sometimes, you got to try different things right from the most simple to the most advanced. And sometimes you might see that the simple one, even though you kind of didn't like it, is actually the one that's working. And then you got to take your bias and say like, hey, I love this thing that I spent 5 hours designing, but this stock image of money falling from the sky is the one that worked. And yeah, it worked and numbers don't lie and you got to go by what the data tells you. So I would say like leave your bias at the door, check it at the door, and be completely guided by what the data tells you. And sometimes that what the data tells you can surprise you and go by what the data tells you. Even if you kind of feel very passionate about something else, but just go by what the data tells you because that's the truth.
Exactly. Actually, there's one more question. I want to go a level, sorry, a layer deeper, which is it's not just about the quality, the quantity of the number of leads that comes in. I actually am more interested in the quality of the lead. So
Right.
how do you make sure that you're getting the right quality, the right people from your ad?
Yeah, that's a great question, Quinn. So the way that you can do that is by, in a way, pre-qualifying them in your targeting. So for example, if you're looking at somebody, be like super specific of who your core audience is. So let's say your core audience is somebody that, again, I'm going to use income as a metric, but let's say that your core audience is people that have, let's say, 60K in income a year. I'm just making that number up. But if you, again, you want to be like, you want to position yourself for success. So try to position a level above that. What do I mean by that? Even though your core audience is 60K plus, target people that are at 120K or 150K. So why am I saying this? I'm saying this because chances are that those people are perhaps even more motivated to use your service because they're at a higher level and for them what you do is not a nice to have but a must have. And maybe they're already pre-sold on your idea. So when the moment they hear you, they'll be like, yeah, I want it. Come on, quick. Come on. Can we get to the part where I'm paying you? So, so that's kind of like what you want, right? So it's all about your targeting and try to be bold in who your customer is and believe in that. And don't kind of settle for less because if you settle for less, that's what you'll get less. So yeah, I would kind of like do it that way. And of course, like Quinn already said, do a lot of tests, test, 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 and test.
Awesome. Can you touch a little bit on the LinkedIn? Because we haven't talked about LinkedIn at all yet.
Yeah, so our LinkedIn system is a little bit different than the Facebook system. The LinkedIn system is built around just a sec. It is actually, you know what? Maybe I could just show you the deck because that would kind of explain it because it's a table basically. It's a one slide table,
Sounds
and
good.
I think that might help to explain this a little bit better. So just bear
I'm
with
beginning
me
to
for
understand your world better, Rajiv.
yeah. So let's see this. Yeah, so our LinkedIn prospecting system is basically like this, where we have, again, this is like a done for you service. and we have different tiers, bronze, silver, and platinum. I'll talk about platinum because platinum is like our fully loaded bells and whistles, everything is done for you. So basically what the process is that let's say so let's say Quinn tells me that her ideal customer is um, executives, mid-level executives, mid to senior executives that are in mid-sized companies with revenue of let's say 10 to 25 million a year. I'm just making that up,
Okay.
but let's say that is one of Quinn's prospect, like target audience, target universe. So we would then target people that meet that criteria. And then what the system is going to do is that we'll then have access to Quinn's LinkedIn account. And then our automation is going to reach out to all of these people that meet the targeting criteria and make a connection request. And after making the connection request with these people, the automation will also send them a message that mimics human behavior that says like, hey, you have a very impressive profile. I'd love to know more about what you do. Can I set up a one-on-one? And there's a sequence, all of which is geared towards get them to the phone call, if that is what Quinn was looking for. If Quinn wanted to kind of get them to get into her funnel, then the interaction would be designed that way. But if, let's say, Quinn wanted to have a conversation, then it would be geared towards that. So that's what the automation takes care of, and that covers basically 1,000 connection requests a month. And this does not require Quinn to have a Sales Navigator account or anything. It is just something that works without her having that subscription level. And then, like I said, it also includes the automation that mimics human behavior. So basically, all this is happening even when Quinn is asleep, fast asleep, on her sixth dream. All of this is happening in the background, and it's beautiful, right? Because it's like a done for you service. And then, in addition to that, if Quinn also wanted to research CEOs of, let's say, Fortune 1000 companies that operated in Canada and North America, US, that were in, let's say, virtual reality. So, and she, for whatever reason, wanted that specific group because of the next conference. Then the service would research just those specific people in databases like Hoover's and LexisNexis and stuff like that, and kind of hand deliver those research leads to Quinn. And again, this could be using any criteria. So one of my earlier clients wanted companies, mid-sized power companies in oil and gas that were close to bankruptcy because they needed capital injection. So it was again very specific, hyper specific. So we then researched those companies, keeping those criteria in mind, and then hand deliver those companies to the client. So that's like one example of how we do it. And then it also includes the cold outreach of contacts that are around peripheral to the core audience. So in the example that I shared, if we're looking at CEOs or C-suite, the peripheral audience would be like managers, senior managers, directors, etc. So that the idea is that if we hit them, we'll eventually reach the decision maker because these might be the influencers, if not the decision makers. So it kind of just helps with the amplification as well as reaching out. And then it also includes a reactivation campaign, which is again an automation that is designed to reach these clients that were not responsive to the initial outreach through an assortment of contact, whether that's email, phone, text, voicemail, etc. So that's basically what we do. And then this also includes like full, like customer support and 24/7. And like I said, it's there's no contract. It's a completely done for you service. And if you wanted the platinum, then that would be a one-time investment of 2,750. So that is the LinkedIn prospecting system.
Gotcha. Wow, I've never seen these numbers before. So this is awesome. Thank you. I love how you do everything done for you because I know that sometimes people say they'll do this, and then they just add on, add on, add on. Because I've had that before.
Yeah,
I
and
haven't. Okay, so transparency. I haven't worked with an agency that I'm happy with yet. So maybe Rajiv will be the one. I would like
maybe,
to.
maybe, maybe, yeah, very likely.
So let's open up for Q&A from our audience. I mean, when it comes to advertising, when it comes to paid ads, it's kind of like if you if you if your ad pays, if your ad works, then you can pump money in all the time. There's no need to stop.
Yeah, it pays for itself.
Yeah, exactly. The ads pay for itself. Just like the professionals that you hire or the coaches that you hire, if they help you make more money than you paid them, then that's free money. So I consider that's why paid ads, if you are serious about growing your business fast, paid ads is the way to go. Free content, creating blogs, creating content and YouTube, all this, it works, but it takes time. If you have something that works and you want to test the market really fast, paid ads, if you have a budget for it, is the way to go.
Yep.
So that's why I'm always looking for good teams, good agencies to work with. I haven't found one yet until now. Well, maybe Rajiv, I want to work with you. That's for sure. Let's
Sure, let's do this. Let's make it happen.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Do you have anyone raise their hands? Charles, you're unmuted. Do you want to say something? Okay, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm looking at some of the questions. One of them, Irma, said that my backdrop has a nonprofit called Bright Now. So I've been a coach and mentor for many years, and I recently spoke at the United Nations on the role of coaching to solve homelessness, which was well received by many governments there, namely the government of Nigeria and Malawi, that asked me to help them solve child homelessness in their country. And that then prompted me to set up a nonprofit of my own, which is Bright Now. So Bright Now is focused on helping children and young adults embrace the possibility of dreaming and then equipping them with the resources to then pursue that dream until fruition. So that's what Bright Now's mission is. And the website is yourfutureisbright.org. So that's why it's .org, because it's a nonprofit. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you please drop in your contacts so people can get in touch with you? Glenn is asking for your details here. And
Yeah, absolutely.
Maria is here. Maria's in the house. Rajiv, before you go, can you please do a quick summary of what to look for, what to avoid, and how to make our paid ads work the most, the most bang for the buck?
Yeah, so to summarize, I would say that first of all, assess if you're ready for paid advertising to begin with. So before that, you want to check if you have your systems in place, like when people are finding you on your website, is your message clear? Do people know when they land on your website that don't know you, what you do, and how you can help them? Is that clear? So if the answer is yes, then great. It means that maybe you're ready for advertising, because advertising basically just means you're getting more people that previously did not know you to see you. So before you do that, you want to make sure that your message is super clear and you are clear yourself as to what you do. Because keep in mind that you can't be everything to everyone. You can only be something to someone. And as the saying goes, the man that chases two rabbits catches none. So you got to be like really specific as to who you are. Stick with that, test it, don't be in a hurry. Perfect that, or at least get it to a point where it's clear as to what you do and you're serving customers. You have some track record of success, and when you're at that stage and you're ready for growth, then invest in advertising. Don't do it before, because chances are you might be wasting your money, and then you might think that the person that did it for you cheated you or whatever. So just like in full transparency, I would recommend it approaching it in that fashion and using that 1, 2, 3 approach.
Awesome. Thank you. Great advice. Thank you so much, Rajiv, for being on this call. I will definitely try you out, and I will report on his service to you guys later on.
Awesome.
But you know what? I'm actually very happy that you're able to come on and teach us how to actually choose agencies to work with and what to look for, things like that. This is important stuff. Before you should pay for agencies, you should know this stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm happy to come on again. So thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you so much, Rajiv.
Glad to be here.
Hey, you know what, Rajiv? I was gonna tease you. I love the ending where you said you have to be specific. You can only be someone. How do you say it? Something to.
Something to someone.
Yeah, that was beautiful. And I was gonna ask you, can I be something to one person and something else to another person? Is that an
Well,
option?
well, yes, right? Because people have multiple segments. But so the thing is that in advertising, you're in that one message, you're talking to just one person or one group, and that's one segment. And you can have another segment, and you're speaking to that specific segment in that interaction. So you can have multiple segments, like auto companies have multiple segments, like they have the base version and the fully loaded version and the winter fully loaded version, blah blah. So the point is, yes, you can, but each interaction has to be treated as a separate interaction. You can't be like, if you're marketing the Lexus fully loaded version, you can't be speaking to the Camry customer. It's just not going to happen because then it's going to be a mismatch. So when
Okay.
you're talking to Lexus people, just stay in that mind space of your speaking to the Lexus person and just stay there. And when you're speaking to the Camry people, stay in that space of being talking to the Camry folks. So both of these things can exist parallelly, side by side, but don't mix it up, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do a 2 minutes bio break. I would love to do a minute, 2 minutes bio break, and then we'll come back. Let's do a draw, and we'll bring on my favorite speaker, Maria. She's been an amazing influence in my life recently. Okay, Gabrielle, can you please do me a favor and put on the two timer, the 2 minute timer, not the two timer.